tried this new trick to get a PS5. Horizon Forbidden West's reviews are in, a huge PlayStation 1 remake just leaked, and we've got some first impressions from people who have tried out the new software update. There's a ton to get into, but before we do, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications set to all. Out of all the first-party PlayStation games releasing this year, Horizon Forbidden West is the one I have been most excited for. I was fortunate enough to get the first game early back when that game came out, and I played so much of it before it even released. Like, I was absolutely addicted to that game, did pretty much everything I could, and then I was like, I need more. I didn't know I was gonna have to wait this long for a sequel, but man, it is just such a good world that Guerrilla created. Aloy's an awesome character, the story was intriguing, the combat was amazing. There were just like a few small issues that I wanted worked out in whatever sequel would happen, and it seems like Guerrilla looked at all of those small issues, knocked those out immediately, and then made an even bigger and better game for the sequel. Like, everything is improved upon if the reviews are to be believed. Right now this game is sitting at a 90 on Metacritic. It's getting tons of 9s and 10s pretty much across the board. I saw a couple sites that gave it like a 65 or a 70. It seems like they were just trying to stand out from the crowd a little bit since, you know, it's a PlayStation game, it's high quality, it's probably going to get a ton of good reviews, which it did. So barring those couple low scores, it seems like it really is the sequel that we've been waiting for. I don't know why I was even worried about this, because Guerrilla has proven themselves time and time again. Like, I've been a Guerrilla fan since Killzone 2, and I've played pretty much every game that they've released since then. But man, I was just kind of nervous because this game started out as a PS4 game, and it could have come out on PS4 a couple years ago, but it seems like they took that extra dev time to really improve the scope. I just played through half of the first game again just to refamiliarize myself with it. Refamiliarize, that's a hard word to say, but I wanted to remember how to play it is what I'm trying to say here. And honestly, it still holds up as one of the better open world games I've ever played. Like, everything you're doing in it feels like you're advancing the character, and there was a really cool thing they did with this game that no one really seems to have caught on to. You were able to max out Aloy and get all of her abilities well before the halfway mark of the game. So you'd have a fully spec'd out character that you could take into the end game. Like, you weren't unlocking the best abilities right when you were going into the last level and finishing the game. So you had all these combat tricks at your disposal, but the one thing I was really hoping they'd fix is the animations, because at 60 frames per second they just don't look very good. And the lip syncing overall just isn't great in Zero Dawn. And then finally, of course, there's weird frame drops. I really hope we don't have to deal with that in Forbidden West, because dropping from 60 to like 55 and then back up, that's noticeable to me as someone who plays a lot of games on PC and runs games at 60 frames per second. So that's all the stuff that I'm glad it seems like they fixed in Forbidden West. Like, watching some of these reviews, I was trying to not spoil myself on big moments from the game, because, you know, reviews always have huge spoiler moments, but it seemed like they've all done a pretty good job keeping the spoilers to a minimum, and just the fluidity of the gameplay seems like it's really improved. The animations in Zero Dawn, specifically with Melee, it always felt like they were a second behind when you would actually hit the button. Like, Aloy had to generate the animation of like spinning around and whacking the robot dinosaur with her stick, and it looked cool for sure, but it never really felt like you had that direct input. And I'm glad that from the videos I've seen and just watching other reviews, it seems like Guerrilla made everything just a lot more fluid, which is awesome. It also sounds like there's a ton of different biomes. The story itself is apparently very good. Ashley Birch is apparently turning in another great performance as Aloy. This really seems like the first big PS5 exclusive game that we can all get hyped for, even though it's also on PS4. If the reviews are to be believed, even though this game is coming out on last gen as well, it does do a good job of pushing the PS5 and really showing off why we needed a new generation of consoles. And if the videos we've seen are indicative of the entire game, it is going to play pretty well on PS4 Pro, which is cool. So yeah, if you don't have this game pre-ordered, remember you can go get the PS4 version for $60 and then upgrade it to the PS5 version for free. This is the last game Sony's doing that with. After this game, it's going to be a flat $10 upgrade price across the board, which is fine. But this, yeah, again, you want to get it on PS4 if you want to save 10 bucks, which why wouldn't you want to save 10 bucks, you know? I'm excited to play it. I've got my pre-order in. I'm ready to go for launch day, and man, these reviews are just making the wait even harder. So we've been hearing rumors for a long time now that Sony is internally working on a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. And I remember when this first leaked, I was like, man, I love that game. I would love to play a new version of it, but that's the one that I think needs a remake the least, and Metal Gear Solid 1 is the one that they should go ahead and remake. And it seems like that's actually what they're doing if a new leak is to be believed. So over on the subreddit Gaming Leaks and Rumors, the person who actually leaked this has leaked stuff before and they've been correct, which is why I'm getting so excited about this, because most leaks and rumors I just tend to take with a huge grain of salt, right? I would still take this with a grain of salt. Most of them I just assume are fake, but this one seems real. They only gave a few details because they didn't want to get someone in trouble who leaked this stuff to them, which I totally understand, but but from what we know, it sounds interesting. So I guess this is supposed to be like a Resident Evil 7 style remake, where in Resident Evil 7, you could play the game without VR and you totally wouldn't even know it had a VR mode because it's in first person, like an FPS. But if you had a PSVR headset, you could plug that into your PS4 and play the entire game in VR. And I really wish Sony would stop buying exclusivity on that VR mode, because I would like to try it on modern hardware, because I got really sick from it the first time I played it. So I played the entire game not in VR, but again, I would like to go back and play it in VR. Anyway, it seems like this remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 is being built the same way, where you're going to be able to play it without VR, but if you have a PSVR 2, it's going to come out around the same time as the headset, and it's going to be a flagship VR game, which is cool because the PS1's flagship game was definitely the first Metal Gear Solid. That was what really made people say, oh, games can be cinematic, games can be cool, games can like rival movies and tell an awesome story with their gameplay. So having that be a flagship launch title for the PSVR 2, that shows a huge commitment from Sony. And I think it's cool, again, that you don't need the VR headset to play it, because Metal Gear Solid is just too good of a game to lock down exclusively to VR. Like the re-release of Final Fantasy VII on PS4. Remember that when they like upscaled it and they made this new trailer for it, and Square Enix made everyone think they were remaking Final Fantasy VII before they announced they were remaking Final Fantasy VII? Man, people were mad. A cool detail the leaker shared is that stuff like night vision or thermal goggles or the cardboard box, when you use this stuff in the game, it's going to be realistically modeled so you can interact with it. It kind of sounds like Boneworks, where they're going to add weight to the items. So like if you're picking up a night vision headset and it weighs a pound, your arms will move a little bit slower when you're putting it on your head versus the cardboard box, which weighs like half a pound. That'll be easier. Like your arms will track the same speed as your actual hands. Stuff like that is really cool. It sounds kind of gimmicky and like it wouldn't add that much immersion, but it adds so much to Boneworks. Like that game is my favorite VR game for sure, and it's because of the detail you get from like having weight on items. It's a small thing that really goes a long way, and it's perfect for Metal Gear Solid. It's also cool that they're going to update some of the boss battles. Like they said specifically that the Psycho Mantis boss battle, where on PS1 you would have to take your controller and plug it into the second controller slot to be able to control during that boss fight, they're going to update it to work with VR, and probably they'll have to do something with the DualSense controller if you're not playing in VR, which is cool. I love that boss fight. I want to see the 2022 or 2023 version of it in like PS5 mode. That just sounds awesome. And right at the end of the post, they also say that this is going to be revealed in Q2 2022 for a Q4 release, which is crazy because that's very soon. They said that Bluepoint started working on this, but it was actually handed off to a different support studio. That's the only thing that makes me nervous, because Bluepoint is the studio I would want to remake Metal Gear Solid. They're the people I know would get it right, but Sony owns so many good developers that whoever they handed it off to probably knows what they're doing. It's just like kind of disappointing to me that if this is real and Bluepoint started it, I want to know why they didn't finish it, because they're the best remake studio Sony has right now. Like I want them remaking Metal Gear Solid, but it seems like they touched it at least a little bit, and that's promising, right? If this is real. Again, take all of this with a huge grain of salt. I'm just glad that Sony seems to be taking control of some of these IP like Metal Gear Solid. It sucks that for the past few years they've just been sitting dormant because Konami decided they wanted to stop making games, and knowing that Kojima Productions is just out there, right? Like working with PlayStation, I would love to see Kojima be able to work on a new Metal Gear Solid. Like if this remake comes out and totally blows up and gets all of these new fans for Metal Gear Solid, I could totally see Sony playing the middleman and being like, Kojima, you get Metal Gear Solid, Konami, you get a ton of money, we will handle the rest, do not worry about it. That's like the best case scenario in my opinion, because I just replayed a huge chunk of Metal Gear Solid 5, and while I love the gameplay in that game, like it was a really good look at where open world games were heading, and I still think no one's really rivaled how good the control and just overall gameplay is in Metal Gear Solid 5, except for maybe like Breath of the Wild. The story is just totally lacking. It's just not there. I mean, even Peace Walker had a more involved story than Metal Gear Solid 5. So I want him to come back and give us a new Metal Gear Solid story. I would love to see more Solid Snake, right? Like something in between 2 and 4 before we get old Snake. I know he ages faster like the clones in Star Wars, but they got some room there before we see old Snake they could play around in. Either way, this seems plausible to me. It's kind of bordering on too good to be true, but I don't know, something about this feels real, and if that's the game they're going to launch the PSVR 2 with, that is super exciting. So the beta for the new PS5 update is out there, and people are kind of sharing screenshots and videos of all the stuff it includes. I know that some of the features are really cool, but man, I'm just bummed that we're not getting stuff like folders, themes, a web browser, 1440p support. But yeah, seeing this stuff in action kind of makes it look pretty cool. The marquee feature of this update is the Hey PlayStation thing, where you can talk to it like a virtual assistant. I'm not going to say like Alexa or Google or any of these other things that'll activate everything in my house right now, but yeah, you're going to be able to talk to your PlayStation. And the reason this is kind of cool is because you have a microphone in your controller. So if you don't have the microphone muted, if you say Hey PlayStation to your controller, it'll let you give commands to your console, which is cool because the microphone's right there. So the person who tested it out said that they were able to use made up game names like Gungeon, and it would just open the game. You can go to media apps. You can kind of control your entire console with just your voice. Now, I know that you have a controller sitting in your hand, and it's actually pretty easy to control the PS5 with a controller, right? That's how it's made. But still, if you're sitting on the home screen and you just want to go straight to YouTube, you could say, Hey PlayStation, open YouTube. Or you could go, Hey PlayStation, open YouTube, and then say search for PSReady's new video, and it'll just load it right up for you. There is some utility here. I'm just not sure how much I'm going to use it, right? Like most of the time I'm gaming on my PS5. I go into rest mode. The game is already there when I start it back up, so I don't really need to use the voice features. But yeah, when the new season of The Mandalorian comes out and I start using it to watch Disney Plus and I'm switching between apps, then I could kind of see the utility, right? It's a cool feature. Again, I wish they held this firmware update back so that they could figure out how to get this stuff that we actually want, right? Like this is kind of a mid upgrade if you ask me. It's doing some stuff with the trophies, which I like. This Hey PlayStation thing is cool. Hopefully this is just like a stopgap update for them to be like, yeah, we're working on it. We'll let you know when it's done, but here's something fun you can play around with in the meantime. I also want to know what's going on with Spartacus. We have a lot of stuff just floating in the ether with PlayStation that I feel like they got to start announcing sooner rather than later, because it's getting crazy out there. Microsoft's buying Activision right from under them, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of working on 1440p maybe. You know, let's get some of this stuff out there so we can move on to bigger and better things. But yeah, sticking with the topic of the PS5, unfortunately, it's still very tough for a lot of people to get one, but there's a new trick people are trying that's actually seeming to work. I know people who have done it with Xbox Series X's, and I've seen some people talking about it on Twitter saying it worked for PS5, so you're going to want to try this out. It involves the Best Buy app, so if you don't have that on your phone, you're going to want to go ahead and download it, and it's called the toggle trick. So the first thing you're going to want to do when the app is downloaded and you're all logged into your Best Buy account is search for a PS5. Now from that search page, toggle the in stock at X store listing a few times, and if the console still appears with the in stock toggle set to on, there's a chance the store actually has a unit to sell. Now after that, this is the hard part. You're going to have to drive to the store and then head to the customer service desk, and then you're going to ask them to check the SKU. The PS5 SKU is 64261449, and the digital SKU is 643016. And if nothing pops up for them, you can still check with a manager or head over to the electronics section. So the reason this seems to be working for people is that you're actually buying either returned units or units that were bought for store pickup and nobody picked them up for some reason. It takes a little bit for them to get loaded into the system and show up on bestbuy.com for purchase for in-store pickup again, but there's this weird gray area middle zone where they'll show as in stock, and then you can go there and then buy them if they are in stock in the Best Buy system, but just not like available to buy for store pickup. You know, it's kind of confusing. All the articles I read basically said the best time to do this is on weekends or 5 days from the last PS5 drop, so you'll just have to do a little simple math with the calendar, and then of course, yeah, you got to go to the store to do this. But if you haven't gotten a PS5 yet and you really want to pay retail, this seems like the best way to do it right now. I've seen a ton of people on Twitter and on Reddit saying that this worked great for them, so yeah, if you haven't got one, give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, fear not, we might be doing a giveaway here on the channel very soon. I know it's frustrating with Horizon Forbidden West coming out in just a few days and it's getting all these amazing reviews, but thankfully the PS4 version of this game again seems to be running just fine. I don't know though, I would feel like I would wait until you can get a PS5 to really dig into this game, because from everything we're seeing, it really takes advantage of everything the PS5 has to offer. So yeah, try the toggle trick, and if it works for you, make sure you let me know down in the comments. Anyway guys, that's all the PlayStation news I have for you today, so make sure you let me know what you think again down in the comments, and remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.